Hello there. My name is Travis Broadbeck, and I work at CARES of New York, Inc. as the Operations Technology Specialist. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the presentation. We're continuing our discussion of using HMIS data to investigate our data from a racial equity perspective. Next, we'll review our agenda, cover the executive summary, then dive into the details. Today, we're going to drill deeper into the coordinated entry data, day shelter data, permit supported housing data, and rapid rehousing data. This is the data that we've looked at in the previous analysis, where we looked at 2018 to 2020. Here are the key points that we can take from this descriptive analysis. First, coordinated entry experienced a lot of growth in the report period, but much of that growth is attributable to a single program. The community should use that program as a case study to learn best practices and insights from. This day shelter data from the report period was driven by a single program for a short period. So we can learn a little bit about that and see how the community would want to address further day shelter programs in the future. Next, the permit supported housing programs experienced ongoing declines in the report period, but the most dramatic change was the decrease in Black emissions in 2019. And we'll look at that further. Lastly, there is a rapid rehousing program that stands out from the rest in its group, and it should be investigated further and understand why it looks so differently. Now we're going to take a look at just coordinated entry data. Previously, we saw that coordinated entry is an emerging program type in the COC, but more than 2/3 of all CE admissions in the report period served white clients in 2020. We see a shift in the data in 2019, where Black or African American clients make up 3.5% of CE admissions. However, in 2020, we see their share grow to 8.5%. Across the report period in all program types, Black or African American clients make up approximately 20% of HMIS admissions. So there is room for improvement to ensure that all clients have access to coordinated entry so that the most vulnerable are prioritized. 68% of the growth in coordinated entry is seen in 2020 is actually attributable to one single CE program, the Steuben County CE program, which appears to come online near the end of 2019 and went into full operation in 2020. Whereas across the other coordinated entry programs, admissions were relatively flat from year to year, with the biggest increase among Black or African American clients between 2019 and 2020. The most interesting part of this visualization is the fact that Steuben County coordinated entry ramped up immensely compared to the other coordinated entry programs. However, the Allegheny coordinated entry program did see a decrease in client admissions. The COC can investigate the success of the Steuben County coordinated entry program and apply those lessons to the other CE programs, especially in the Allegheny coordinated entry system. When we drill down into the coordinated entry admissions data by gender, we see that there's a large gender disparity among the clients identified as Black or African American, whereas for white clients, 47% are female. For Black or African American clients, less than 22% of the admissions are female. There could be a chance that our coordinated entry admission points are not easily accessible to Black females. Looking once again at just the Steuben coordinated entry program, we see that it attracts more males than females and appears to be the main driver to the gender gap seen across the coordinated entry system. Remember, the Steuben County coordinated entry admissions make up most of the admissions across 2020. This visualization excludes the Steuben County coordinated entry program and shows the opposite, a nearly 50-50 split of males and females. The coordinated entry team could investigate further to understand how a gender gap is forming at one program that is not seen at the others. Our last coordinated entry visualization looks at household type. For white clients, 14% of admissions are of households with adults and children, whereas Black or African American clients, we see about a third of that at 5% of admissions. Further investigation is warranted to ensure that fair and equal access into coordinated entry is available for Black families. Now we're going to shift gears into day shelter. As we turn to the day shelter data, we look at the difference in admissions by race and year. We can see that there was an increase of 90 white clients between 2018 and 2019, but only an increase of 1 Black or African American client in the 2-year period. In day shelters, we see that 35% of white clients have a disabling condition, but only 18% of Black or African American clients have a documented disabling condition. Due to the incredibly small sample size, we cannot make any concrete conclusions about this relationship, but it should be something that we should monitor elsewhere. Now we're going to look at permanent supportive housing programs. When we look at the gender breakdown of permanent supportive housing clients, we can see that of all Black or African American clients in the report period, 70% are male, whereas white clients in permanent supportive housing make up 52% of the program type. This visualization is interesting because there's two different patterns occurring simultaneously. First, we see a major decrease among Black or African American client admissions in 2019 that reverses in 2021. In fact, it surpasses 2018 admissions. Whereas among white clients, we see a year-over-year decline in admissions, with a 50% decrease in 2020. It is unclear how much of an impact that the COVID stimulus programs and the COVID-19 eviction moratorium had on the 2020 data. When we look at the breakdown of admissions by permanent supportive housing programs, we see that across the board it experienced a decrease between 2018 and 2020, except for the CCST La France Housing Project, which started entering HMIS in 2020. Now we're going to shift gears to rapid rehousing. In this visualization, you will notice that there is a nearly identical count of Hispanic clients between Black or African American and white demographic groups, although white demographic group is 6 times larger than the Black or African American group. This graph may not prompt immediate action, but it does raise an interesting scenario which could be further investigated. To look a little deeper into ethnicity, clients that identify as Hispanic or Latino are seen most in emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, and homeless prevention programs. In this chart, when looking at the rapid rehousing admission data, we see that white clients have more females, 57% of admissions, whereas males make up 43% of admissions. This is contrasted by a nearly 50-50 breakdown for Black or African American clients or clients with 2 or more races. Across the board, we see a triangle-shaped pattern emerge where admissions for all races peak in 2019 but drop in 2020. All of the largest 3 groups, we can see admissions in 2020 are below 2018 levels, which is likely attributable to the availability of units, the stimulus programs, and the eviction moratorium. At the first pass, it appears that all rapid rehousing programs are experiencing a decline between 2018 and 2020. The one program that stands out from the rest is the CCST STEP ESG Rapid Rehousing Program, which experienced a spike in 2019 and returned to above 2018 levels in 2020. In this visualization, we're only looking at the CCST STEP ESG Rapid Rehousing Program, which comprises 65% of all Black or African American client rapid rehousing admissions. In addition, of all rapid rehousing clients, 72% of clients identified as 2 or more races also receive rapid rehousing services at this program. We also see that this program had its highest admissions in 2019 and a major decline in 2020, possibly indicating the impact of the stimulus programs and the COVID-19 eviction moratorium. But for the largest 3 groups, the admissions in 2020 match or exceed those in 2018. A possible action of the COC is to work with the program to do an internal assessment of their staff, ensuring that the population being served is represented by those providing services, in addition to providing the best training to provide the best services possible. For all other rapid rehousing programs, we do see a decline between 2018 to 2020. Black or African American admissions decreased in 2019, which is unusual behavior for that year. To recap our methodology, the same data was used from the previous analysis where we look at 2018 to 2020. We cleaned incomplete data, and we also visualized this using open source software R. Lastly, here are references for where we received our data. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I look forward to your questions.